Now, I have a super crew of panelists here with me, and I would love to allow them to introduce themselves. So, Walmyr, I am going to have you go first.
All right. I'm super glad to be here at the Cypress.io 2025. I'm Walmyr. I am speaking from Barcelona. Uh, I am an educator, also a QA engineer slash advisor. Just started a new role this October 2025. And I'm super excited to be here with all of you, sharing some knowledge with the Cypress community.
Thanks, Walmyr. Kevin, would you go next with an intro?
Yes, thank you. My name is Kevin. I'm joining here from the Netherlands. I'm working as a consultant in test automation. For the past few years, I've been with several clients in all sorts of fields, helping them out with their testing needs, both in functional testing, but also a lot on automation. And now for some time, I'm part of the Cy.Prompt program, where I can speak with people from Cyprus from time to time and also test all the new amazing things that are coming up. And really excited to talk about that tonight here with you.
Awesome. And Chaturanga, will you go next on an intro?
Hi, all. I'm Chaturanga Jayasinghe. I'm working as a senior QA engineer at Riverty, and also an ambassador of Cypress, of course. And I've been in the quality engineering realm for over 11 years now, and I'm really looking forward for this discussion.
Awesome. Now, before we dive in, let's talk about the thing that everyone's kind of been buzzing about this week. Brian kicked off the conference with an announcement that Cy.Prompt is officially live for everyone as an experimental feature. And I think that sets the stage for what we're talking about today. If you weren't able to catch Brian's session and haven't seen the Cy.Prompt command, it actually lets you describe test steps in plain language. Literally, you just type what you want your test to do. Cypress then turns those natural language test steps into real Cypress code that you can view, debug, and eject right into your project using it just like a normal Cypress test. Here, this command is all about shortening the distance between the test you need and the code that runs it. But we need to keep that same transparency, same reliability, just less time between idea and execution. So I would say with this command, the intention here is to take the repetitive parts off your plate so you can focus on what really matters, designing those smarter tests, collaborating across teams, and using your expertise where it counts. And that's what we will be exploring in this panel, what AI actually means for the people doing the testing work every day, and how tools maybe like Cy.Prompt fits into this picture. So I'm going to start off with something that I mentioned a little earlier. Again, across our industry, teams are testing more than ever, and we're asked to move very fast. And sometimes the tools and the processes that we've been using really haven't evolved fast enough to match that new release velocity that we're all looking for. So we all are looking for ways to move faster without losing control. And I think that's a good place to start in this conversation. What's changing in testing with the rise of AI, and what real problems are we hoping it solves? I'd like to start with Walmyr. From an educator's perspective, what do you see as the biggest pain point AI can help solve for teams learning and scaling test automation?
That's a very great question. I would say that the biggest pain point that testers face nowadays is writing reliable tests. And this is where I think AI comes in as a tool that will allow you to write more reliable and more robust tests that will not break if the application is not broken, because this is very important. Tests have to break only if there is a real bug in the application, not just because the tests are not reliable. Because if they are unreliable, the team loses the trust in the test, and when the team loses the trust, that's where bugs can come in, and you won't notice because you don't look at the test results anymore. So I think AI is going to help us very much in terms of reliability and robustness of writing tests.
Nice. Kevin, you've seen how pressure builds when delivery speed increases, but test maintenance can't keep up. Where do you think AI could bring the most relief in that area?
Well, we all feel the pain, that test break because small changes, and you have a lot of time you need to keep the maintenance up and keep everything in check. And I think that is definitely a part where AI can be a very big contributor to help with that maintenance part. That if you have proper tools in place that can see small differences and negotiate or work around it. You don't need to focus on fixing everything on those small changes anymore because you just know the test will do it, the system will do it, and I don't need to look at it because it's all in place. And then you can focus on the more important parts on writing better flows, better scripts, etc.
Thank you. Chaturanga, I want to go on to you. And as someone who is leading QA across large orgs, what balance do you think teams need to strike between AI-driven speed and maintainability, reliability, and trust?
Well, I think that's the biggest question at these times. So, well, AI isn't just a luxury anymore. It's really a necessity if you want to keep up with the pace of modern releases because the developers are using AI and we have more often releases. But the real point isn't just chasing AI for the sake of it or just and speed alone does not equal success. So it's about staying relevant and while keeping the reliability in the front and in the center. So the balance is using AI for acceleration and humans for assurance. So we can let AI to handle repetitive, predictable tasks, and so that the teams can focus on the parts that human need is there for judgment. Like, for example, the AI sometimes hallucinate big in tasks like where you have complex business logic with deep domain knowledge. So keeping that human layer is really crucial. So that's how we get the velocity AI offers without losing the trust and the quality that only people can provide. So when you bring these two elements together, that's when I think the organizations really see the AI's benefits at scale.
There was definitely going to be a couple of quotes from that answer that I'm going to pull and use later because I think that really hit the nail on the head. Now, each of you had the opportunity to get an early preview of Cy.Prompt, and I'd love to hear your key takeaways from the experience. What stood out the most? What surprised you? How does it fit into your workflow? Let's go to Walmyr first. You've worked with a lot of new testers. How does Cy.Prompt make test automation more approachable for people who are still learning the craft?
I would say that Cy.Prompt makes it more like it's easier for people that are not that much technical to get into automation, which is a requirement from our software development industry. And at the same time that it allows people that don't have this technical background to start writing tests in natural language, it also gives them the chance to start learning what is going on behind the scenes, because you can eject the natural language and see the code that Cypress generates in the background. So I think this is how it makes it more approachable for, and not even just for non-technical testers, but also for other roles in the software development lifecycle, like business analysts, product owners, product managers, anyone that wants to be involved in testing what is being built. I think that's a great benefit of this new feature.
Yeah, as we had a speaker earlier say, testing is a team sport. And I really echo that message. I think that this is a feature that can help enable and it maybe expand that team. Maybe you get a first string and a second string if we're going with sports metaphors. Kevin, you work in a consultant role where time is often not on your side. How do you see Cy.Prompt impacting the day-to-day workflow of individual contributors under tight delivery timelines?
I actually noticed two really strong points. I have been on projects where we would write the test cases before development would start. And if you have already that written out test case, why not just copy and paste it into Cy.Prompt and it will do the magic? So that already saves a lot of time. If you have a good written out test script up front, you can just use it within Cy.Prompt and you are basically done. It will do the job, it will work around, and it will do your testing. And the second part that I noticed that can really help is a bit what I said earlier. When small UI changes are in place, test automation just breaks because it doesn't know. And Cy.Prompt has that self-healing capabilities. And I actually tried to fool it around a bit and make a lot of small UI changes. And every time I made a change, I just saw the prompt running again. And here we go, and we continue. And yeah, if you can rely on that and have such a strong feature in place, it will save so many time in your maintenance.
It really will. And I have another question for the group. I'm going to go specifically to you, Chaturanga. What does rollout look like across larger teams? Because it's a great new feature, but you can't just implement it and overnight people are using it and using it in a way that is standardized and maintainable and, kind of keeps the chaos in. So how can organizations introduce AI-driven testing responsibly without disrupting their established pipelines?
Well, it's totally about the trust. So rolling out AI in larger teams really needs to be intentional and also gradual. You can't just flip a switch overnight because that's a quick path to resistance and also loss of trust and a lot of mess. So what worked for me was starting small. Normally we can begin with a closed group and then we can do some simple tests and allow the people to use AI. Then we can test it out. And before we go live and actually plug it into our real the work process, we can redefine it with the feedback that we get from testing. And then we can roll it out more broadly. And the other big piece is that educating the teams on how to use AI thoughtfully rather than blindly. So keeping transparency and feedback loops open is the key factor. So when people understand why and how, adoption happens more smoothly without disrupting the pipelines or the delivery times. That's what I think.
That's really great. I think that you hit the nail on the head there. That starting small, maintaining communication, and just not blindly trusting. Like a speaker said earlier, our greatest skill here is still critical thinking. So I like that. Let's talk about AI and replacing folks. AI doesn't replace skill. It changes where we spend our time and what we value in our work. The real opportunity here isn't about removing humans from testing. It's about freeing them to focus on intent, creativity, and strategy. So I'm going to start again with Walmyr. We've got a pretty good round robin going here. So from your experience, how did testers evolve from being the executors of tests to the curators of AI behavior, guiding, validating, and shaping what AI produces?
I would say that first of all, you want to not be just an executor. That's the first thing. If you want to continue being just the executor, then nothing is going to change. So it has to start with the person, right? And after that, I think it comes back to the fundamentals. you have to practice the craft. You have to be eager to learn. You have to be willing to learn new things. And with AI being part of our lives nowadays, you have to learn all the fundamentals of what, not just test automation, but everything that runs in the web. Not everything, but as much as you can. The more you know, the more you can think about the quality of what you are building. But besides that, you also have to learn about prompt engineering, because if you write a well-instructed prompt, then you have great results. Otherwise, you will have just silly tests that won't make any sense, or that won't even do exactly what you want them to do. So I think it's like going back to the basics, learning the fundamentals, practicing the craft, wanting to learn, wanting to move from your comfort zone, together with like prompt engineering and all that stuff that is not going to leave us anytime soon, I think.
That's true. Kevin, for experienced engineers, how does AI shift what good testing means? What new skills or mindsets will matter the most as we move into 2026?
Well, you kind of said it yourself already a bit. The critical thinking part. I think that is where you can differentiate yourself as a really good tester and set up good testing. And I also saw someone in the chat notice something about domain knowledge. Having strong domain knowledge means that you know what is going on, and to see all these connections of what is happening within your application and everything around it. Just as Walmyr said, all the other systems around it, all the web around it. What does AI do? What will it do with your data? There's also a little security aspect of it. How are you going to make sure that the data is still secure? I think that means that as far for skills, you're going to look a lot broader than just writing your automation, but maybe also a lot deeper in the technology, because AI is somewhere going to make mistakes and you will have to find and fix it, because it will hallucinate at some point. Figure it out. So you really need to be good at those parts as well.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where some things, we hear about vibe coding and vibe testing. And I think those are great as ways of exploring. And you don't know what you don't know, so expanding what you do know. But you have to start with the basics, right? You have to know what product you're working in, have the domain knowledge around it, and know the testing framework that you're using. Like, you got to have those foundational steps there.
Definitely.
Chaturanga, as teams adopt AI tools, how do you help people trust AI's results while keeping traditional debugging instincts intact?
Well, I think that's a great question, because I think you're touching 2 points. One is trusting AI. The other one is keeping the traditional debugging instincts sharp. So the biggest challenge with AI adoption isn't really that technical side now. It's about the trust. People naturally have a hard time trusting when they can't see or fully understand something. So our approach is to make AI explainable and participatory. So we can train teams to validate AI's work, question its results, and correct it when needed. So the goal isn't just blind trust, it's about earned trust. So when the testers engage in this way, they keep their debugging instincts sharp. And those critical thinking skills, they don't disappear. Just what I think is like they just evolve. Because whenever I do debugging or test automation using AI tools, like I have learned a lot. When I put up a pull request and when I see the comments from GitHub Copilot, for example, I've learned a lot through that. So instead of AI replacing the human touch, we can reframe it. Testers become AI supervisors who guide, validate, and refine the AI outputs. So I think that's where the real power is.
Yeah, I love that quote. Testers become the AI supervisors. I like that. And I think that kind of leads us into the next part of the discussion here of where are things going next? AI is going to continue to evolve. We're seeing it now move at just breakneck speeds, right? So I want to hear from you guys. How do you see this technology shaping testing workflows over the next few years? And where does Cypress fit into that story? Walmyr, I'm going to go to you first. You've watched testing evolve from scripts to strategy. So how do you see AI changing the craft itself, the way testers design, communicate, and share test intent across teams?
I think at the same time that it changes the craft, we should not look into AI tools as something as different as any other tool that we are already used to use. So as you use a calculator to do math problems, or Google Docs to write digital documents, or you use Cypress to write automation, you should use AI testing tools or any other AI generative AI tool as a tool. The name says so. Um, I think, like, if you understand that it's a tool that will help you be more productive doing your own job, then you are gonna nail it. But you still have to know what the AI is generating. You still have to know the fundamentals. This is why I brought the fundamentals before, because I think, and Kevin mentioned something around that before, like if you don't know what the AI is generating, how can you fix it, right? So I think it's something that, like, you have to learn how to use it at the same time as, but you can't forget all that came before generative AI.
Yeah, that is true. From Kevin, over to you. From a consulting lens, you've seen how different teams adopt to new tools. What signs tell you that AI in testing has moved from experimental to essential, that it's something teams can actually rely on day to day?
Well, I think that when AI just started to show up, especially with the large language models, it was this big scary thing that can do so much, but you have to be so specific to make it work. And nowadays, you see the smaller, more dedicated applications come in that have a very specific thing that they can do really good with AI, but that also makes it easy to start using them, because it's no longer that big scary thing where you can do everything with. It has a specific task, and that I also see happening with teams. They're like, okay, well, I don't like that big scary thing, but this is a very nice specific application. Cy.Prompt is really clear on what it does. People like that because it is clear, you can see it, and especially if you can eject the code out of it, you can see what it is doing, you can see what it brings up. That makes it easier to use and easier to understand, and a bit less scary. So that's what I noticed most at this moment.
Thank you. Over to you, Chaturanga. How do you see Cy.Prompt and other Cypress AI tools like Studio AI working together to build more intelligent and adaptable pipelines?
Well, that's an interesting question because it's all about what comes next, and we could talk days about it. But for the moment, but to keep it simple, uh, if you look at what's happening in quality engineering, everyone wants people who can think outside the box. I have seen this requirement in many job descriptions. The reality, though, is that traditional QA folks are swamped with routine tasks, test designing, test case writing, automation, analyzing results. So it leaves them little to no time to be truly innovative. So, on the other hand, the industry has been shifting towards the shift left testing, bringing the testing activities earlier into the development process, and even having the developers pitch in with some automation, partially, not completely. But so the idea is to free up the quality engineers so they can do more exploratory testing, and they can think outside the box to catch those really tricky and edge cases. So I think that's where Cy.Prompt actually hits the sweet spot. Just imagine, like Kevin mentioned, you get a requirement and you do the test designing and you identify the test scope and you identify the test cases, and you just write the test cases using Cy.Prompt, then basically you have already implemented all those test cases right away, because you don't have to do anything else. It takes care of the locators and everything. So by the time the development is done, you've got scripts ready to run. So which means the QA can spend more time on, let's say, exploratory testing, mutation testing, try out some chaos testing, all the creative and high value work that actually finds bugs. Because running the same test suite over and over and over again won't find new bugs. You have to refine it, but you don't have time. But this allows you time, which is lacking. So Cy.Prompt hits the sweet spot by giving QA engineers the freedom to do what they do best, innovate and ensure quality. I'll stop there.